Welcome to SSHA Academic Advising's Virtual Open House Week 2021. My name is Amandeep Singh, and I'm super excited to have you all meet with some of our faculty from the Cognitive and Information Sciences Department. Before we get started with some interesting videos that our faculty have sent us, I would like to everyone to introduce themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and first hand it over to Dr. Noel.
Hi, my name is Dave Noel. I'm the department chair of the Cognitive and Information Sciences Department, which houses both the Cognitive Science program and the Philosophy program. I'm here representing the Cognitive Science program, including the Bachelor of Arts, the Bachelor of Science, and the minor.
And then Professor Hicks, if we can have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Dan Hicks. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a philosopher of science, a faculty member in Cognitive and Information Sciences, and I'm here today representing the philosophy programs, the major and the minor.
And also, if we can have Sukhpal, our student, as well, introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sukhpal Bowler. I am a fourth-year psychology and philosophy double major. My interests lie in transpersonal psychology and philosophy of mind, and I'm here to represent the student side.
Awesome, thank you, I appreciate that. And then finally, if I can have Lauren Brackett, my colleague, introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Brackett. I am the major and minor advisor for all cognitive sciences and philosophy major and minors as well. It's a pleasure to meet everyone.
Awesome, thank you all for introducing yourselves. As I mentioned before we began the panel with questions, we do have some videos to show you all first, so I will be going ahead and showing you two different videos.
Good morning, Bobcats. My name is Carolyn Jennings, and I'm going to be introducing you to philosophy at UC Merced. Philosophy can be a difficult discipline to define, even for people who are within it. That's because it's the oldest academic discipline. So it's very diverse. It has many topics that it covers, many methods that it covers. It has within it, for example, logic and ethics, things you won't see in other disciplines, as well as topics you will see in other disciplines, such as the nature of the mind and thinking, which you see in philosophy of mind and in cognitive science, as well as issues like what is the best form of government, which you might see in political philosophy, as well as in political science. There are many faculty here at UC Merced, and some of us have similar areas of interest. You see here overlap in the middle on topics like philosophy of science. And then you have distinct areas, such as Dr. Hannah Gunn, who covers feminist philosophy, and Dr. Rolf Johansson, who covers logic. These faculty lead a number of initiatives. One of the most popular is on Fridays. There is a series called Examined Life, run by Dr. Hannah Gunn, where people can come together and talk about philosophy. Philosophy of majors have gone on to do lots of different things. So you'll see many different types of people who have majored in philosophy. For example, the former Pope, John Paul II, was a philosophy major, and he said that he sees philosophy as a way for the church to come to fundamental truths. And you have activist Angela Davis, who's a philosophy major and even a philosophy professor, who says that we have to talk about liberating minds as well as liberating society. You have author Miguel de Unamuno, who says that the skeptic does not mean him who doubts, but him who investigates or researches, as opposed to him who asserts and thinks that he has found. That's a classic philosopher description. And then you have businessman Carl Icahn saying that you must think before you act in life and business. He was also a philosophy major. Many students ask, what is the salary of a philosophy major? And it's actually pretty good. Philosophy is so general because it has so many topics within it. It trains you to kind of think critically about many different topics. You see philosophers doing very well when they leave with their bachelor's and take part in whatever area they are in. So mid-career pay for philosophers, if you compare some of the different disciplines in SSHA, it's actually very good. It's higher than political science and management, for example, but it is below cognitive science and economics. Philosophers also tend to do very well on different standardized exams, in part because of the training in logic. So if you're thinking about going to law school or medical school, philosophy majors in some studies have been admitted at higher rates than other majors. For example, philosophers have been admitted at 50% into medical school and 75% into law school, more than any other major. So we would love to have you join us in our classes. Feel free to contact any of the philosophy faculty to ask further questions about what it would mean to be a philosophy major. We often recommend that students double major so you can get that general education from philosophy and then specific education in whatever topic you're most passionate about. So take care and enjoy the rest of Bobcat Day. Bye. Good morning.
Awesome. So that was our first video. Talks a little bit more about the philosophy major. We also have a second video for cognitive science. So I'm going to go ahead and share that in just one moment. And for our students that are just joining, please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to use the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom screen to be able to message those questions to me, and we'll get to questions very soon.
Have you ever wondered how your mind works? What exactly are thoughts or emotions? How do you make choices, sometimes without even thinking about it? Where do new ideas come from? How does your brain allow you to learn? Have you ever wondered if you have actual free will? Have you ever wondered
how people talk about and think about abstract or complex things like time, disease, or climate change?
Have you ever wondered how you're able to direct your mind, even in the face of distractions like this?
Have you ever wondered how language experience affects the way your brain processes speech?
Have you ever wondered what's going on inside people's brains when they look at that dress on the internet and say it looks black and blue, or say it looks white and gold?
Have you ever wondered how your brain turns thoughts into speech?
Have you ever wondered if those video games you play have positive potential? They could do good things for the world, maybe help us find cures to diseases or understand the relationship between our minds and our brains.
Have you ever wondered why visual information like paintings and data visualizations can be so powerful to us?
Have you ever wondered how our brains are able to think about abstract concepts like love, justice, infinity, time travel?
Have you ever wondered about human-robot interaction?
In the cognitive science program at UC Merced, we wonder about things like this. Cognitive science is the modern interdisciplinary study of the mind. Cognitive science draws from insights from many other disciplines, including anthropology, artificial intelligence, education, linguistics, neuroscience, philosophy, and psychology. Every perspective is considered in trying to understand human cognition. Cognitive scientists have learned a lot about the mind, but we still have many questions. In our research, we investigate topics like
language, learning, memory,
visual perception, language comprehension, and recording eye movements.
How humans understand metaphor, how and why we gesture when we're talking, how grammar carries meaning.
Auditory cognitive neuroscience.
Cooperation, moral decision-making, threat detection.
I study decision-making with uncertainty, spatial cognition, and data visualizations.
I study philosophy of cognitive science, phenomenology, neural networks, and dynamical systems.
I study creativity, how language and culture shape our minds, and how the human brain is able to make sense of the most abstract, complex concepts.
I study attention, the ability to direct the mind, and its impact on other functions of the mind, such as perception, consciousness, action, and responsibility.
Have you ever wondered why STEM concepts can be so hard to learn, especially the more complex they are? I study this question using theories of learning, cognition, language, and motivation.
In cognitive science classes, we discuss these and other interesting topics, but learning isn't restricted to the classroom. Cognitive science majors have opportunities to participate in active research projects, helping to make new discoveries.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Erica. I'm a third-year cognitive science major here at UC Merced. And I think my favorite thing about cognitive science at UC Merced would be all of the really cool research opportunities that we get as undergraduates, as well as all of the really cool professors that we have. So a lot of them are really, really genuinely interested in helping you and helping you achieve your dreams. So that's definitely a really, really good thing to have.
One of the advantages of being a COG student at UC Merced is the incredible research being done on campus. As a second year, I'm already in 2 research labs. One that delves into auditory neuroscience and another that investigates cognitive control in children.
With a Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts degree in cognitive science, you'll be well prepared for a variety of careers. You could work in the emerging field of data science. You could help design computer systems or work on artificial intelligence. The most innovative artificial intelligence systems today are inspired by the workings of the human brain. You could work with robots, perhaps on human-robot interaction. You could become a computational linguist and help to build systems that understand you when you speak to them. An understanding of learning prepares you for careers in education. An understanding of reasoning prepares you for law school. An understanding of cognition in groups of people prepares you for careers in public policy or social work. An understanding of the brain prepares you for medical school. Maybe the brain interests you enough that you'd like to become a neuroscientist. A cognitive science degree, including undergraduate research experience, is excellent preparation for graduate school. Perhaps one day you'll have your own cognitive science laboratory.
Regardless of the career path you choose, a degree in cognitive science will prepare you for a life of wonder.
Okay, awesome. So that concludes that portion of showing some really interesting videos about our cognitive science and philosophy majors. So we're going to go ahead and move forward to the question and answer portion of our panel. Once again, if you have questions you would like to ask, please feel free to use the chat feature. Otherwise, I will go ahead and first start off with a question of if we can have you all introduce yourselves again a little bit and talk about a little bit more about yourself and some of your research interests. And we can start off with Dr. Noel.
So again, I'm Dave Noel. I'm the chair of the Cognitive and Information Sciences Department. I started out my education and my career as a computer scientist. I worked in some of the early artificial intelligence companies. And when I went to graduate school at the University of California, San Diego, my PhD is jointly a degree in cognitive science and computer science. Increasingly, I've been interested, however, in building computer models of how the mind works and how the brain gives rise to the mind. So I consider myself a computational neuroscientist. I try to understand the mind by modeling the brain. And I also continue to do some work on artificial intelligence on the side.
And my name's Dan Hicks. And again, I use they, them pronouns. I'm a philosopher of science and a faculty member of the Cognitive and Information Sciences Department. As a philosopher of science, I'm primarily interested in what we call public scientific controversies. So these are things like climate change or vaccinations, which is a big issue happening right now. I've also done some work on controversies such as genetically modified foods or the use of pesticides, or air pollution regulation. These are all topics that I study using a combination of tools from different areas of philosophy, philosophy of science, and political philosophy. And I also have a very complicated interdisciplinary background. So I also bring in some perspectives from other social sciences and data science as well for some of the methods that I use, looking at things like text mining public comments on regulations, or looking at networks of authors in scientific journals to understand how research communities form and interact with broader communities.
Hello again. My name is Noel Buller. I'm a fourth year psychology and philosophy double major here at UC Merced. My interests lie in transpersonal psychology and philosophy of mind. My reasons for those interests are because not only do they fascinate my curiosity, but I feel that through transpersonal psychology, a lot of healing can be arrived at for those that really need it.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Sukhbal, if I can also just have you briefly talk about why did you choose UC Merced?
So primarily because on all honesty, I didn't get accepted to other UCs. So UC Merced was the one that I did end up being accepted to. And at first, I think similarly with a lot of other first year students, I wasn't too excited about being at UC Merced because of the comparisons that we make to other universities in California. However, I have been quite blown away by the quality of education and the quality of growth that I've experienced here.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So next question, can you all talk a little bit about students that are interested in participating in research? How can they go about doing so within your department?
I think that in our department, we go about facilitating undergraduate participation in research in much the same way that a lot of other departments do. That is to say, it's relatively informal. Students find out what kind of research is going on at UC Merced in our various laboratories, either by hearing about it in a class or reading about it on our website, a news story, or the like. And they find out a little bit more, see if it's something that they're interested in, and then they just email a faculty member. We tend to not bite, so you can just send us a note and say, I'm really interested in this work I heard about. Is there any chance that there are opportunities for me to participate in this, or can I simply talk to you about this work to find out more and find out what other opportunities might exist? So unlike classes, it takes a little bit of gumption, a little bit of initiative to seek out faculty members and ask, but those faculty members are eager to find people to help out in their explorations.
One thing I'd like to add to that, so it's not just the sort of cognitive scientists in our department who do research with undergraduates, but really all of the philosophers in the department also do research with undergraduates. For example, I just hired an undergraduate student researcher to work with me this semester on a text mining project. So I found a computer science major to help me out with that. Unfortunately, he's graduating this semester. So next semester, I will be looking for another undergraduate student researcher to help me continue with that project. So there are opportunities not just in cognitive science, in the more laboratory-based parts of the department, but also in philosophy.
Thank you. So one of the things that we do notice sometimes students have a tendency to misunderstand is the difference between research and an internship. Can you all expand a little bit on what exactly is the difference and what's the value of both of them?
I'm not sure that those two concepts are entirely disjoint. Usually, when people are referring to doing research, they're talking about participating in some activity in a research group or research laboratory here in an academic setting here on campus, or at least in collaboration with a group here on campus, trying to pursue some fundamental questions, trying to get answers to very basic questions. Internships, usually that term refers to a similar sort of experience that takes place in a commercial setting, some corporation or perhaps a national laboratory, an organization that may have goals that extend beyond expanding our knowledge, might have some business goals or the like, want to give people the experience of what it's like to work in that environment. And that could include research. It certainly could include research, but it could also include just learning what it is that different people do when they are pursuing different career paths.
I think an internship is often oriented towards a career outside of academia. Whereas a research experience would be really good for someone who's considering graduate school, especially to get a sense of, what is it that academic researchers do when we do research. This can look very different from what you would learn in a classroom setting. That said, academia is a very challenging field to have a good career in. And so I think even if you're considering going to graduate school, experience with an internship could be a good idea. And on the other hand, maybe you hadn't considered a career as an academic before. A research opportunity on campus could give you an opportunity to consider that trajectory for your career. And potentially open new possibilities that hadn't occurred to you before.
And going off that a little bit, you had mentioned graduate school. Can you all talk a little bit about what our undergraduate students can do now to help them be more prepared for graduate school if they're considering that?
I guess we'll continue in the same order here, if that's okay, Dan. There are a lot of misconceptions, I think, about what happens during the evaluation of graduate school applications. First of all, it's worth noting that there are two very distinct kinds of graduate programs, probably more kinds, but at least two. One of which are professional degree programs, where they're providing people with advanced knowledge and advanced skill that allow them to pursue some professional career path. These include things like professional degrees in law or medicine, but they also include a lot of other master's programs that are preparing people to do work in a particular field. And then there are PhD programs, which also prepare people to do work in various fields, but importantly also focus on preparing people to be in the academy, to work as academics, both conducting research and teaching and all of those wonderful things that academics do. I think the main misconception about preparing to go into either of those programs is that the things you have to do are the things that you need to do in order to get a good GPA. That is to say, you take your classes, you do what you're told, you get good marks, you demonstrate that you understand the material. When in reality, what often makes a big difference in a graduate school application is some indication that you have a more focused knowledge and interest in the kinds of things that that program is pursuing. And things like letters of recommendation from people that you've worked with, whether they be your teachers and instructors, or hopefully people that you've worked more closely with, either at an internship or doing research with them. Those recommendations carry a lot of weight because they give insight into your understanding of the field that you're trying to enter into, and your aptitude towards pursuing that. So it's really important if you're planning on going to graduate school to try to make sure that there are people that are well respected in the field that you're pursuing that can say something about you, something more than just you got your homework in on time and did well on it.
So I guess I sort of have two things I would say. So the first thing along the lines of what Professor Noel was just talking about, in terms of having a friendly mentor-mentee relationship with some faculty members. In part, this will be important for having a strong letter of recommendation, but it can also be important for figuring out how to navigate the process, figuring out which graduate programs might be a good fit for you, and also figuring out whether or not graduate school is the right option for you at all. So I think making a point of getting to know some of the faculty in your major, your minor, other fields you might be interested in, I think that is a very important thing. The other thing I would say for philosophy and other humanities programs is developing your strength as a writer, because this is going to be what people are going to look at in a graduate school application in the humanities. They will look at the letters of recommendation and they will look at your writing sample. This is a very involved piece of writing. I have been working with one of our majors over the summer to prepare an application for graduate school. And I think they've done about 5 different drafts of the paper over the summer. It's an enormous amount of work, and working hard towards doing the kinds of things in their writing that philosophers really look for in graduate applications. So I think working hard on your writing, and this goes for other humanities fields as well, which will often have different expectations and different styles of writing. So developing as a writer in your field of interest, I think, is also very important.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. So while this is more of a student-directed question, can you talk a little bit about being a double major? Time management is super important, right? How do you manage your time? What are some strategies and methods that you use as a student? And what are some of the extracurricular activities that you're involved in pertaining to your interests?
Yeah, so as far as time management goes, I keep it pretty simple. I just have a simple calendar and I keep track of all my assignments and things that need to get done. Recently, I've been framing my weeks in terms of imagining that I already have everything that I need to get done, and the steps I took to get those things done. But as far as a double major goes, for my entire college career, I've had no less than 16 units a semester, some semesters 18 and 20 units. But that's something that I enjoy because it keeps me busy and it keeps me focused. Did I answer all parts of your question?
Yeah, do you have, currently, are you involved in any research or any other kinds of extracurricular activities?
Currently, I am not involved in research or extracurricular activities, primarily because I haven't found research or activities that fit my interests specifically. So I'm taking more independent approach.
No problem. Thank you for sharing. So next question. What are some good academic behaviors to be successful in your courses? And can you talk a little bit about some of the courses that you teach?
Oh, goodness. Behaviors, huh? I mean, riffing on a comment that Dan made, I think that having really good communication with members of the teaching team, whether they be instructors or graduate student teaching assistants or the like, goes a really long way. I think that most of the problems I've seen in the classroom could have been alleviated if there was a clearer understanding of what was going on early in the process. And members of the teaching team are really eager to help you learn. They thrive on helping people learn. Other than that, it's a matter of diligence. Each course will provide you with guidance, and in a way, it's the main purpose of structured courses to tell you what as a learner, what might be a good path to acquire certain knowledge or acquire certain skills or the like. And if you take that seriously, and if you find obstacles in doing so and communicate them, I think it'll go a really long way. There is probably a really long list of other advice, including things like time management and the like. Just really quickly, the kinds of things that I teach. Right now I'm teaching an Introduction to Artificial Intelligence class, which is cross-listed between the Cognitive Science program and the Computer Science and Engineering program. In the spring, I'll be teaching a course called Computational Cognitive Neuroscience, which talks about making brain models to try to understand the mind and the brain. I also teach a course called Scientific Thinking, which is a lower division course that's about what every person should know about what science is, the kind of stuff that Dan specializes in, trying to make sure that we have informed citizens that know how science is funded, what it means for work to be peer-reviewed, all of these things that help us contribute to discussions about policy that is influenced by scientific progress.
Let's see. So I think I'll go in the reverse order, talking about the courses I teach first, and then some advice on how to succeed in them. So this year, the undergraduate courses I'm teaching, this semester in the fall, I'm teaching critical reasoning, which is an introductory course in what we call informal logic. So we're learning not so much in the cognitive science sense about how people reason, but more about how we exchange reasons and arguments to justify our views and explain our views to each other, and then how we can evaluate arguments that we get from other people. That class can be a lot of fun later in the semester because, for example, we'll have some big class debates where everyone, all 60 people enrolled for the class, will be involved in big whole debates. Let's see, so that's in the fall, and then in the spring, I'll be teaching philosophy of science. This is a class actually that Supal took last semester, and I think we had a lot of fun. We looked at many different scientific fields, the way scientists work with evidence, the relationship between science and society in some positive ways, but also some negative ways. This class involves a group project where the students read a popular science book and relate it to themes that we cover in the course. And then, not this year, but probably the following spring, so this would be spring 2023, I plan to teach a class on environmental philosophy. I haven't figured out exactly what this is going to cover yet, but it will probably include some themes, some topics such as environmental justice, the environmental justice movement, the relationship between philosophical ideas about the environment and making public policy, and probably some of those controversies I mentioned before, things like climate change, for example. And then, so those are the kinds of undergraduate courses I teach. To succeed in those classes, especially the upper division ones in philosophy, a lot of them are taught in a more discussion-based way. So if you're just in your first couple of years of an undergraduate education, you're probably used to getting mostly lectures, which prepare you to learn in one way where you have a professor standing up in front of the class, sort of telling you what you need to know, and you learn how to learn by, making copious notes and reviewing them for quizzes and so on. With upper division philosophy courses and other courses in the humanities, they're often taught in a discussion-based way, somewhat like the Spark seminars. are. And to really succeed in those classes, you need to prepare in a different kind of way. So if I'm not going to just tell you what you should know from the readings, you have to engage with the readings yourself before class time. And I don't expect students in those upper division courses to have completely understood everything in the reading. The way I see it, the point of a seminar is for us to work together as a class to cultivate understanding. And so what I want students to bring is their curiosity, their understanding, what grabbed their attention or what piqued their interest that they want to think about some more. And so learning how to identify those things and bring those to class are really the key to being successful in an upper division philosophy seminar.
Thank you for sharing. So next question, I know that you all talked a little bit about students being able to work in academia pursuing this type of degree. Can you talk a little bit about some of the other types of careers that students can go into with these majors?
I tried to highlight some of that in the video that we started off with, a video that I had only days to throw together, so please forgive any bumps in it. But there really are a diverse range of career paths that both cognitive science and philosophy, I'll let Dr. Hicks speak to philosophy, but these are fields that are very broad and in many ways very interdisciplinary. So they can prepare you for areas that involve directly human cognition, areas that involve understanding human behavior, whether that's in the context of marketing or in the context of helping people that have learning problems or education or understanding neurological problems with more advanced training. But also more indirectly, how do you analyze collected data about large groups of people, and what does that say about large groups of people and their decision making? And there's kind of a technology angle here too. Increasingly, there are what some people have referred to as cognitive technologies, things that do information processing in a way that augments our cognitive capabilities. And these include artificial intelligence and machine learning and robotics and a wide variety of other domains. The career paths that you see on your typical TV show, like lawyers and doctors and the like, there are a lot of sub areas within medicine and law that these sorts of skills can prepare you for, but the world is a lot bigger than that. There's a lot of interesting things to do, and having some basic skills in understanding cognitive processes touches on a lot of them.
Yeah, so as Professor Jennings talked about in the philosophy video, there's a very strong track record for philosophy graduates entering fields like law or medicine. And I think a big part of the reason why philosophy majors do so well in those fields is because the kind of training that we give our majors really emphasizes writing, logical reasoning, the ability to communicate your ideas clearly and often in a compelling way. So I was talking about with the critical reasoning course, the ability to develop a clear and compelling argument is really central to training in a philosophy major. So these skills are very widely applicable. Being able to write well, being able to express yourself clearly, being able to clarify your ideas into a compelling argument. These are really incredibly useful in just about any field you would care to go into. I would add, getting a little bit more specific to the content of philosophy. So we offer, for example, my course in philosophy of science, my course in environmental philosophy. Professor Hannah Gunn is planning to teach courses in bioethics currently teaches a course in philosophy and technology. The content of philosophy often complements what you can learn from other majors, giving theories of ethics or theories of the way science works or theories of how knowledge works. These are things that can complement the training you get, for example, in a STEM major or a more social science SSHA major. And it can even be a nice complement to fields like a language and literatures program or sociology, more qualitative social science. It can sort of round out and again, complement what you're learning in those other fields. So for example, even if you want to go into the tech industry as a computer science and engineering major, taking courses on, for example, ethics and technology can help round out your skill set in that industry.
Thank you. And final question, what advice would you give yourself when you were an undergraduate, and what resources do you wish that you took advantage of when you were a student? And for Iqbal, if you could just tell us a little bit about some of your advice and experiences as a student as well.
Why don't you go first?
Oh, you said I should go first? So the biggest thing that I've recognized in my time as an undergrad is that the greatest marker of success for any student is how engaged they are with the class and how engaged they are with other students, at least for philosophy classes and psychology classes, because that's my primary experience. But when students are engaged in dialogue with each other, knowledge and education isn't isolated anymore. And from that, we get to hear from each other and grow from each other. And ultimately, that's what the aim of knowledge production is. It's a dialogue with each other to arrive at truth. And so in the undergraduate experience, engagement is with the class and with our others is the best way to go about it.
I think that's really good advice. I think thinking back to when I was an undergraduate at UCLA, I think I didn't take advantage of the networks of fellow students in my classes in various extracurricular professional organizations, or for that matter, the instructors that were around in the full way that I could have. These are people that probably would really welcome my questions and my ideas, and I was much more a student of putting my head down into the books and focus on my relationship to material rather than my relationship with these other folks and their ideas. Definitely something that could have been improved. But I think that the biggest thing that I would have changed is I would have not stressed about grades so much. I had no idea that maybe my very first job, they looked at my GPA, but nobody ever looked at it ever again once I started to do things. And I think that sometimes that focus on that GPA can just completely distract students, and it distracted me from fully embracing all of the interesting things that we can explore during our undergraduate education.
I think the advice I would have given myself would have been to take people's advice more. I made kind of a mess of my grad school applications because I wasn't listening to the advice from my professors as an undergraduate. And as a result, I took a very long and ultimately very slow path to get where I am today. I'm happy where I am today, but I wish I could have gotten here a little bit faster. And I probably would have if I had listened to people a little bit more. The more general piece of advice I would give to undergraduates today is to give yourself room to explore. We have a very rich general education program here at UC Merced that is designed to encourage you to take classes outside of your major, things that you wouldn't have that it wouldn't have occurred to you to do beforehand. And something like this is actually how I ended up in philosophy. I started off convinced that I wanted to be a computer engineer. That's what I applied for. That's, you know, on my applications, that's what I said I wanted to do. 6 weeks into my first semester of computer science, I realized that I couldn't stand the subject and couldn't envision myself doing this professionally for the rest of my life. Fortunately, my undergraduate institution had these general education requirements, and through satisfying those, I had this perception that philosophy was just sort of sitting around making stuff up. It wasn't rigorous like math and science. And this preconception I had of philosophy was totally blown away by my first philosophy class, which I took to satisfy one of these GE requirements. I absolutely fell in love with the field. A year later, I took my first philosophy of science course and realized that it had given me a way to combine my love of math, science, and technology on the one hand with my interest in thinking about politics and society on the other hand. I could bring those two together in this thing called philosophy of science. And that's what I get to do today. And I wouldn't have realized that this was a possibility if I hadn't taken a class that I was required to take and didn't think I would need when I started as an undergrad. So give yourself the opportunity to explore, try out new things, even things that might seem unappealing going in.
Well, that concludes our panel. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. This session will be posted to our website for all of our students, and that concludes it. So thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.